political analyst, Dr. Imran Bakas, who joins us now. And Dr. Bakas, good evening to you. COSATU leader Tony Ehrenreich says this kind of behavior from Advocate Mkhwebane, who also doubles up as a member of parliament, is racist conduct. Do you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I caught part of what Tony was saying, but yes, I'd agree. It's racist conduct. I think it also feeds into, a politics of crude racialism. And what's interesting for me is that, organizations like the Research Foundation have recently released data to show that support for the EFF might be on the decline. And of course, there could be a number of reasons for that. But I think, one of the things it speaks to is the kind of positions that people in the EFF are taking, some of the populist positions, particularly around race dynamics. And these might not be resonating with their electorate and broader society like they initially might have hoped. So, we would have hoped that 30 years into democracy, that we would have dispensed with this kind of politics. I think, our own history shows that we come from a dark history of contending nationalisms, insular British and Afrikaner nationalisms, and of course, an embracing African nationalism. And then we have, these kinds of statements, and certainly not for the first time. So I think worrying for our democracy and worrying for the trajectory of our democracy.
Do you expect the EFF to take action against her, or do you expect them to close ranks and defend their own?
I would have liked to think that the EFF would take action, but I certainly don't think they will. Very often we tend to think that the EFF is acting in line with progressive politics. But, the positions that the EFF takes is certainly not in line with a progressive tradition. And if you'd allow me just to maybe make a comparison here, these kinds of situations where you have, minorities and where you are trying to build societies, post-colonialism, post-apartheid, etc., certainly does not apply only to South Africa. I think if we think of the great Africanist thinker, Walter Rodney, writing and operating in Guyana, and as an Africanist, he too promoted the idea of unity, bearing in mind that, there were other minorities of South Asian descent in the Guyanese context. Even if one thinks of Biko in South Africa, the number of people that Biko had around him, also spoke to the idea that Biko embraced a progressive tradition, and people who identified as Black and people who did not see themselves as white, who believed in the country, who believed in the future of building this country, South Africa, were welcomed even in the Biko tradition. So certainly all of the progressive traditions, and of course we've spoken about African nationalism that came out of the African National Congress, all of these traditions put forward the idea of unity. So, when a party in declining support, electoral support, I think as little as 6%, should really be contributing to building this country, falls into the trap of making statements like these, I think it's really, really worrying for the health of our future.
Yeah. Finally, Dr. Bakas, the EFF may or may not be expected to take action against one of their own, as per your sentiment. I suppose what people will also be wondering tonight is what possessed Advocate Mkhwebane to single out people of Indian descent, given that that committee was run by a chairperson who is African, and there are many other people of different hue who would have composed or formed part of that committee, apart from the judge who recently handed down the ruling. But let's bear in mind that he was not on his own. I think it was a full bench, again, comprised of African people, or black people to be exact. So what is it that you think possessed her to single out people of Indian descent? Does it make sense to you?
Well, it doesn't. I mean, she goes back to even citing people like Praveen Gordhan in other contexts, and the EFF has also done that, even negating the kind of decorum one holds in death. So I think what this really shows is that Mkhwebane is on the political back foot, really clutching at straws here. There's no substance to the argument that she's making. And when one falls back into this kind of identity politics to substantiate what you're saying, I think it just takes away, from the gravitas of your argument and just dilutes the kind of political substance of any justification for what point you're trying to make. So I think it's a sad day for South Africa that Mkhwebane has chosen to go this route. But I may also add, it's certainly not surprising.
Dr. Imran Bakas is a political observer. Thank you very much for your time weighing in on the comments of the former public protector who was impeached, and this whole case that has been building around her had to do with that, at least the case that she wanted to appeal.